Okay, I just converted my Hammerhead GTS 150 Platinum. It didn't have a lot of power. I live in Tennessee. I like to climb hills, and I still want a little speed out of it. So I did the big bore kit. And, well, I did the 155 kit with the cam and stuff on the 150, and it was okay, but it wasn't enough power for me. So I went out and eBay sourced a GY6 300, the Life Fan. It's out of an Ice Bear, um, and they converted it to electric, so the engine's perfect. So anyhow, this is a conversion to a 300 on the Hammerhead, and it's really not that bad. You're going to have a little bit of mounting issues because the engine mounts similar, but obviously it's bigger, so the mounting is wider on the front of the 300 GY6. The rear, you can use the 150 bracket, which is what I did, and it's not a big deal to get it over. You just need to go get a couple of spacers for the front mount. Obviously you know, the ignition's pretty easy. I used my 150 ignition system. I just pulled the trigger off my 150 and used that for my pickup, and used the 150 coil. Works fine, plugged right in, no big deal. I used the stator for the 300, obviously. I just got some butt connectors, and it's the same 3 wires. You really can't mess it up because it's, you know, it's obviously puts out AC voltage. I used the 150 voltage regulator, so I just wired that up to the factory plug, used the same connectors, pulled the pins out, no big deal on that. Still 3 wires. You really can't go wrong on that. The voltage regulator will convert it to DC voltage and also regulate the voltage to about, I think it's like 13 and a half volts, or something very close to that. You can't use the 150 intake. You have to come up with your own design to go in front of that bar. I mean, because the carburetor's, I think it's a 30 millimeter opening on that carburetor here for the 300, so you have to go with an elbow is what I did, and obviously I did a uni. You'll have to manufacture your own exhaust. The exhaust system will not come out the left side. There is no room for an exhaust, and the 150 exhaust is inadequate anyway, and the 300 likes to come out to the right, is where it's originally piped anyway, so I manufactured my own exhaust. Very simple, no big deal on that. It definitely likes to come out to the right though, so but you can clear the chain and sprockets and everything, keep it real simple. I made my own mount there. I got a, you know, a muffler off of eBay. The coolant system's not too bad. You know, you just got to remote mount a radiator of some sort. I chose not to use the Ice Bear radiators. I am going to use a remote radiator from a Predator 500, mounted up high with an electric fan. But it does fit. You'll have to pull the seats. I got it in from the front. It will not fit from the back unless you drop the axle, which it was easy for me to pull the seats. So, but it will wire up pretty simply. Took me about 2 days here and there. No big deal, and it has a ton of power. It will do, I've got a 45-2 sprocket on it now, which is not the factory for the 150, but it'll still do 50 miles an hour. It will, you know, it's plenty of power for it. So, and the weight's not much different at all. It's a little heavier, but the transmission on it's much more stout on the 300. You know, and being liquid cooled, you can ride and ride and ride, and not have to worry about overheating. Obviously, it's a little more complicated with that coolant system than an air cooled, but you know, then again, you can ride all day, any weather. Don't have to worry about it overheating. But as far as handling goes, it's a little overpowered. I definitely recommend a sprocket dropper. It'll be absolutely too fast with the 39-2 sprocket that comes factory on the Hammerheads. But you know, I didn't really change a whole lot. I tried to keep it simple, tried to make it look factory, tried to make it look original, and you know, take it out there with some of the razors and stuff and see what happens. You know, but short of ground clearance, I think it's a pretty well machine. I did weld the roll cage up It is welded. I know there's a bolt there to cover the hole, but it is welded because with the 300, it's just got so much power. It's more likely to flip over backwards going up a hill, or with the speeds and everything. If it does flip, I don't trust the Chinese bolts in it. So I just grabbed a little MIG and just took the roll cage off and zipped it all up. But it's really not a bad project to do. It will, definitely don't go cutting your harness out and trying to use a 300 harness. It will use the 150 ignition. You just either use the 150 trigger or buy a 150 trigger and use that, because it's just way simpler. It's one wire. That's all you have to connect for the ignition system. And for the charging system, you just have to use 3-butt connectors on 3 wires, put them on the factory clamp that comes off the stator for the 150, and wire those right up to the 300, and you're good to go. There is no sequence. It does not matter what sequence the poles are in for the charging system for the stator. The voltage regulator will handle that and convert it to DC. So that's why they're all the same color. They're either going to be yellow or white, and you're going to be like, what? But it's not a big deal. You can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong. And with the factory harness, you don't have to worry about a ground or anything, because the regulator's already going to be grounded. It's already going to be plugged in, and you're just plugging into the harness, and it's real simple, real painless. So if anybody wants to do a GY6 300 conversion or 250, there you have it. I got to be honest with you, the hardest part was the exhaust. Took the most time because of, you have to really make your own exhaust, and I was lucky and had the 300 exhaust, so I didn't really have to buy anything except a muffler. But it will spin the tires on concrete. It is not a kid's toy. This is, you definitely want an adult in this cart. You don't want your 10-year-old going out there, because it is fast. It definitely gets up to speed fast, but it is a lot of fun. It's exactly what I wanted. It's reliable. I kept the engine stock. I am not jetting the carburetor or changing clutch springs or variator weights. It has plenty of power, and I really want it to be reliable. So, but that's it. And if if that helps you, I hope it does. I'll see you out there.